Hey, everybody, good morning. Yes, it is a good morning. On a Wednesday morning, and I had quite a few people text me and a few people throughout my other channels and on Twitch last night. The conversation went a little bit into how Udio and Suno are getting sued by record companies, publishers, and stuff for training their artificial intelligence on existing recorded works owned by record companies all around the world, and in turn using that to generate, quote unquote, fresh new content. I think a lot of us have been sitting on the fence and wondering, really, truly, a lot of us, at least in the industry, such as myself, on exactly how this was going to start to work itself out. What was going to be the linchpin to start the accelerated process of this issue? You know, for me as a composer, I've made a living in what's called music libraries, over 40 years of writing music, thousands of tracks for publishers. For myself, I saw Udio and Suno as a total disruptor to the industry down to the bare minimum, meaning like composers pretty much would be out of work once, interns and stuff for production companies knew how to create pieces of music. Now, I'm not talking about movies and TV shows as much as I am talking about, commercials and bed use and YouTube people who use stock music for YouTube videos, corporate type stuff. But as far as pumping out music for songs, completed pieces of works, I've been sitting and I've spent hours and hours with these tracks, and I'm just scratching my head on not only, even though it doesn't sound good yet, it really doesn't sound good, guys. Let's just face it. I mean, it's getting there, but now learning different ways of using prompts and stuff, all of a sudden you can prompt Suno to have an intro, a pre-chorus, a chorus, if you know how to use those bracket thingies, and even an outro, and so song structure, it could be done. But at the end of the day, this lawsuit, I think it's going to set that precedence, kind of like what happened with LimeWire and Napster. Even though the record company was digging a hole in water trying to stop that service per se, it forced them to understand that there was a new business model aligned, and what ended up happening was Apple and 99 cents a pull, which still theoretically that was the major people's elbow to the record industry when it came to making money in the old school way of records, cassette tapes, and CDs. In this case, for what I know, there's going to be some kind of like, okay, halfway, meet you halfway, because without a doubt, at the very, very least, this is a derivative use of existing work. Anybody in the industry knows that, lawyers and stuff. So at the very least, there's some kind of derivative use discussion that is as solid as can be as far as I'm concerned. So, to me, this is just like another step towards, oh my gosh, the record companies are finally getting to that last dangling rope of like, how do we manage creative, rights and intellectual property, and not even record companies. This goes all the way down to the person who's worked their ass off for a year on a project, put it up on Spotify or wherever it may go. And I'm not saying Spotify by any stretch of the imagination is part of that end of it, because Spotify is not training their AI, because I don't know that they have AI. It's these other two companies. And then there's another one that's coming around the corner, I think, called 11 Labs or something, or any other AI music generating company that thinks that there's a business model, in doing that, in following Suno and Udio, are going to watch this and see what the heck happens here. So this is going to be really interesting. From my point of view, it's really, 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 really hard for me not to lean into the creative artist, band, supportive side. Record companies and stuff like that, the big people that are suing, the big companies, I don't have any, I don't have a dog in the hunt there, because record companies and stuff, I don't have any kind of relationship with them. Never really done business with record companies except through the 90s. But as far as the artists that have been spending their lives doing work and realizing AI has trained something on there. On the other hand, I've heard people say who are less attached to the creative aspect of this say, well, they're just using 30 chords, the kind of prompts people are putting in there. It's the same 4 chords people have written. There's the people who are like, don't care about the artists and the bands and all that sort of stuff, and say, what is it? It's just 6 chords. it sounds like. What's the big deal? Well, that's always going to be a conversation, you know, between non-artists and artists and what it takes to release a track and so on and so forth. That kind of happened when Lars went in front of Congress to complain about LimeWire and Napster. And, you know, you always had those people going, you know, saying something like, oh, greedy, 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 greedy. But somebody had to stand up for something and start the conversation. I believe this is a conversation starter, not a conversation ender. But I think everybody involved in music, one way, shape, or another, has been sitting here going, when's it going to happen? When's the other shoe going to drop? When is, you know, finally get to a place where, you know, something's going to shake the pillars of copyright, and this lawsuit. And also, there's also been all kinds of crazy things happening with record companies and companies like TikTok and stuff. That's a whole different thing. And this channel's not about being that. But I did want to chime in on this subject matter because, you know, for me as an older composer, and always doing what I can to support younger composers as far as ideas and how to stay alive, this really does kind of hit me right here, because the first super effect of AI getting maybe another 25% better, which it probably will in the next 6 months, is going to be against all those composers that have put music out in stock, you know, music libraries and stuff like that. Once again, they're safe for now because their music still sounds 10 times better than what AI is generating, but it is getting close. And you'd be surprised at how many people who are maybe just looking for a piece of music that won't get in trouble, but they really are not too concerned about, you know, how good it sounds, aren't already using it for their videos in the background. So anyhow, back to our usual suspects. I got all kinds of fun stuff coming in the next week or two. And yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right.